to the audacious Dutchman.
How you going?
Oh, so good.
You doing good?
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching. Today we're actually joined by Xanthia. Hey, I don't know your last name. What's your last name? Gregory. Okay. You might want to try and bring that mic just a little bit closer to you. That might be as close. Can you pull the chair in a little bit?
Let's get this positioned. There we go.
Yeah.
Is that better?
I think so. I'll turn your gain up a little bit as well.
Okay.
Just so it really picks you
I do have
up.
a deepish voice.
That's all right. I don't.
So we balance each other out.
100%. So what did we just do? We actually just we went for a little dip in the ocean,
Into the ocean. Got our morning routine out of the way.
Yeah. No, I thought that would be a good way to start because so I've been doing a lot of reading on cold exposure.
Yeah. Getting onto the fad.
Yeah, for sure. Like everyone is 100%.
Catching
I know, right? It's a bit like that. And I just have a really low tolerance for pain, basically.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm a real pussy. So I don't.
Lucky you're not having the baby.
I know, right? 100%. While we're in the delivery suite, I was literally like, "There's no way that I could do this."
Imagine you having a baby.
Not a chance. Not a chance. No, human civilization would definitely stop if it was dudes. But no, I did it today, and man, like I was having a rough morning. I was a bit anxious, and just cleared me up just like that.
And that's what I do, I'd say maybe 3-4 times a week. That and the meditation in the morning and changes like the trajectory of your day, which means your week and your month and your year and your life. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So we connected through a friend. So you are housemates with my wife's boss. Basically, yeah. A very, very close connection. So we actually just met this morning, which is kind of cool. This is most of how this works anyway. Most of the guests I've only just met. You have a really, really interesting story. So I know a little bit about your story, and I've done a little bit of research as well into the background. But basically, why don't I let you lead it off?
I'm passionate about telling my story because there is so much that has happened in my life and so much that has come out the other side to where I am now that I just feel like it's a waste for me not to be able to share actually what's happened and what I've learnt from it. And that's kind of moving forward in my life. What my passion is sharing with people the things that I've learnt and how I've got to where I am today and how the tools that I have now that other people can have for themselves. So where do I start? Gosh. I think like the beginning of everything is that like I grew up in the country. I grew up in rural Victoria in a place called Murrindindi, and I grew up on a goat farm. Yeah.
Where's Murrindindi? Is that South Gippsland?
No.
Or is that further?
No, it's up near Mount Buller.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know where Black Saturday fires started? That's
Marysville area.
Yeah, up that way.
Yep.
So I was on 400 acres up there. Yeah. And
that would have been an awesome life.
Oh, it was so good. Like I was just a kid of the land. I remember just climbing trees, running in paddocks. Just my mum said she used to look out the window and I'd just be twirling in the wind. I was just like this child of the earth. And it then sort of my life changed when my parents... So my dad was quite a bad gambling addict. And my mum was a dairy farmer and working a lot to try and cover everything. And she ended up getting involved in the church. So that's the first chapter of how this all started.
When you say the church, what denomination? Do you know?
So Pentecostal Christianity, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the newer sort of Hillsong kind of church vibe. So my parents got really involved in that movement. And that led to then wanting to homeschool me. So they wanted to take me out of the mainstream. And then they met a group of people which we at the time didn't know, but it was a cult, and they slowly kind of brought us into that life. And so the start of year 10, my mum, my dad and I, we left our home, left our everything that we knew, and began living in a cult.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting. At what point did you work out it was a cult?
Years later, when I looked
Yeah.
back.
So my parents were in a cult. I don't know if I've told you this.
No.
We'll get to that later. But my dad always explained it by saying it's hard because it's a bit like putting a frog in a boiling pot of water. Yeah, if you put a frog in a boiling pot of water, it'll jump out. But if you put a frog in a cold pot of water and slowly turn the heat up, it's going to cook.
I think the reason why I'm passionate about talking about it is because it's not just something for people in religion or people that have been through that. The whole concept of like being manipulated emotionally, like the amount of predatory behavior that's out there that people can get taken by in the way that you're talking about, where it's just slow progression, just slowly this thing and then that thing and then this thing. So really my story is it's applicable to everybody.
100%. I guess, how is it any different to, so you say it's a cult.
Yeah.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, but would you say, so I go to church. Yeah. I would call myself a Christian. I don't feel like I'm in a cult though. You know what I mean? Yeah, so what are some of the markers that you felt like it was a cult?
Yeah, good question. And that's actually kind of what I learnt later on. I learnt that it was a cult through, I was actually just watching documentaries. Like this is years later when I had escaped and it was all fine and good. I was watching a documentary and I started seeing the checklist and I thought, this has got all of the markers, and some of the markers are probably the main...
Is there a checklist, is there?
Well...
Like a cult checklist?
Well, you can't, if you go...
Cult checklist?
Yeah, let's see.
Pull it up, Jamie. Checklist of cult characteristics.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If you're just listening... Unlucky. We'll read them out, but they're on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube. Hey, guess what?
It's so good.
We suggest that you check all characteristics that apply to your group is focused on a living leader who members seem to display excessively zealous, unquestioning commitment.
Yes.
The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members.
Yes.
The group is preoccupied with making money.
Yes.
Questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged,
yes.
even punished.
Yes.
Mind-numbing techniques such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, debilitating work routines are used to suppress doubts about the group and its leaders.
Yeah.
The leadership dictates, sometimes in group detail, how many members should think, act, and feel. For example, members must get permission from leaders to date, change jobs, get married. Leaders may prescribe the types of clothes to wear, jeebus, where to live, and how to discipline children, and so forth, so on. The group is elite, claiming a special exalted status for itself, its leaders and members. For example, the leader is considered the Messiah or an avatar. The group and the leader has a special mission to save humanity.
Yeah.
The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which causes conflict with the wider society. The group's leader is not accountable to any authorities, as for example, military commanders and ministers, priests, monks, and rabbis of mainstream denominations. The group teaches or implies that it's supposedly exalted. What? It's supposedly exalted and justified
means that members would have to consider unethical before joining the group. Yeah.
Wow. The leadership
induces guilt feelings.
You go.
100% in members in order to control the members. Subservient to the group causes them to cut ties with family. Okay, this is big stuff now. This is what exactly. So, and to give up personal goals and activities.
Did you experience some of that?
Literally every single thing.
Wow.
Literally every single thing.
And how quickly? So, how old were you when you joined the church? And was that church... Can I say the name? Yeah. So it was Rema. Yeah. How quickly... And was it Rema, always Rema, or did you go to like a Hillsong session once, and then you ended up at Rema. You know what I mean?
Well, it started. So my parents got pretty heavily involved just in the Pentecostal movement, which in itself can have some of these characteristics in terms of the us versus them. I mean, anybody that's been a Christian knows that it's very.
That.
Yeah,
I really struggle with. I really struggle with going to church for that reason.
Yes.
So I have a strong faith.
Yeah.
But I really struggle with any churches because I find a lot of this.
Yes, and there's I think it nullifies some of the aspects to faith that are the healthy aspects, which is your own choice to do the things, an openness, a non-judgmental approach. So yes, community and all of those sorts of things, but the thing that changes with these groups, I think, is that they're super like, is that they're super like, it's us and it's them, and if you're not with us, you're against us, and all of those sorts of aspects. So they started.
I'll grab them. You keep going. We got some food. We got a special delivery of food, basically. That's what's just happened. Love you.
Thank you.
No worries, enjoy.
Yum.
There you are.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
What a winner, hey?
Fuck, what a winner. You've done well.
What is it? It was... What did she call it?
Tapioca.
Tapioca pudding. Yeah, we went somewhere the other day and she had tapioca pudding for breakfast, and I was like, oof. It's good stuff, eh?
Really good. So, I think my mum was just very stressed out with having to run this entire show by herself. And so she looked to and leaned into other sort of religious experiences to support her, which is a typical indicator when somebody's going through a rough thing, is they'll do that. They'll like find groups of people to help.
Really? Okay. Yep.
Well, if you...
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know, if you go to the church, a lot of people in the church are not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're, you know, people that could kind of branch out on their own. No disrespect, obviously, to anybody that's going to church.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's slowly started with that sort of stuff, and then just started spending like Sundays there, going to this place. And the place had a very... I mean, if people were listening from Rema were listening to this, they'd be infuriated because, oh, how dare you say, but I don't give a shit because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really, really long driveway on this property that was just cut off from everything up in Kinglake. And there was a head pastor, and he's kind of like he wasn't Messiah, obviously, but he was dictatorial about his approach with everything.
I'm sure he had a close connection with God.
Oh, much closer than everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He had... I honestly think that... Because I have been to Remas in other countries as well. Okay. And they were really good. Mm-hmm. They were quite good. But the one here had...
I'd say, you don't think it's an organisational issue? You think
not.
It's just one? Oh, that's interesting.
Because... Okay. And this is where the difference is. So the Remas in other countries are connected to the community. They work alongside people in the community. They're answerable to everybody and everything in the government. But yeah, I think the biggest thing about a cult is the seclusion. So for 3 years, I didn't really go into society at all. I was cut off from society. And we were told when we could and couldn't leave.
At what level? So did you live on the property?
Yeah.
Did you have your own kitchen? Or do you eat at a mess hall?
We had a mess hall, but we also had our own houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had a kitchen there?
We had a kitchen, but we didn't really eat there. We ate in the mess hall.
Yeah, you couldn't really go to, like, the shop. You couldn't go to Coles and get bagels.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Because they brought food into the place.
So they really got you on your own.
Yeah. And the concept of you can't go and visit anybody. Like, you can't go outside. And people can't come in. Mm-hmm.
Which I suppose for anyone listening, they would go, why didn't you just work it? Like, at that point, why didn't you work it out? And I suppose that would have been done slowly. Yeah. And you probably would have been convinced that it was... What reasoning did they give?
Well, we had a property, half an hour away. And And we were coming back and forth from that property, and it was the honeymoon period with this place, and it was fantastic and lots of support and love and everything. Once we moved from, like, packed up all that stuff from that property and moved into the, like, compound area, within maybe a week, there was... My mum went to go and visit, because I've got 3 siblings. My mum went to visit, ask if she could go and visit one of her kids. And she was told no. And so it started from there.
Okay. And how long did you say, how far in was that?
That was a week into moving there. So it was once we had moved in, it's like any abusive relationship. It's like once you're in, then it's shut down.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So how long were you involved in REMA in total?
So I did school. I did 3 years of school.
When you say school, REMA school? Or you went to, like, the school down the road?
No. Homeschool. So we had...
Oh, of course. Yes.
I had a... it was called Australian Christian Academy. So it was a curriculum that wasn't recognised by the state. And so it was
One of those ones.
One of those that I look back now and I think, oh,
whoops.
Geez.
Yeah. How's that, like, impacted you? Like, did that mean, like, could you go to university afterwards, or, you know what I mean? Like,
that's part of the story that's insane, because I knew somewhere deep in my soul that I was going to be an academic, and I had to, when I brought myself out, like when I started the huge journey of, like, bringing myself back alive, I had to go to TAFE for a year and do a diploma.
was that a year 12 equivalent sort of situation?
And that's a year 12 equivalent.
Okay.
And then that's how Monash accepted me. So none of that schooling counted for anything.
That sucks.
I know, it was so bad.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I learnt geography, which Australian schools don't.
That's true. That's very, very true.
I know the Bible very well, so don't come at me with any
Did they let you read the Bible?
Quizzes. It was only the Bible.
Okay, yeah.
It was only Bible.
Yeah, cool. I was just curious to see if they let you read the Bible, or if you had to receive the Bible through someone else. Were you allowed to go and do your own learning?
Well,
because surely if you have access to the Bible, then you can start questioning what's going on around here. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
But there's the brainwashing comes in phases of, because there's a morning meeting and there's a nighttime meeting, and there's anything allowed in between, in terms of you can't read books, you can't watch TV. So that's a pretty rigorous, brainwashing regime, morning and night meetings, and no other, like, input from anything.
Yep.
So they were Bible meetings.
Okay. And what would you do? Would they read a passage from the Bible and then discuss it? And so it was just a sermon.
Yep. It was a sermon.
Yeah, but that's pretty draconian.
Yeah,
like twice a day, going hard.
I look back now, I think, far out. Like, I think abuse, mental abuse, social abuse, spiritual abuse, all of those sorts of things. If you catch somebody when they're vulnerable enough, and you go hard enough with a regime and a technique and all of those sorts of things, you can really, capture somebody's energy.
Would you say they preyed on people who
100%.
were? And where did they find people? In town? Facebook ads? Billboards?
Networking.
Okay.
Because they had to keep it under the radar, obviously, because they're a little fucking cult up in the hills.
Yep.
Obviously there's no laws or anything that can affect them, but...
Even that's weird. Why not?
Because we're Australia. Because we don't have an infrastructure of law to support that sort of shit. Because we're too busy trying to do, like, just basic stuff. Yeah. So that's a little bit too advanced for Australia.
Yeah.
So there's no like, police can't. But look in the States. The times when they've come to, the police or law enforcement have come and tried to do anything about what's going on. They can't normally. So
Yeah, okay.
Mm.
So you mentioned brainwashing and you described services twice a day, every day, and you're not allowed to do anything else. Brainwashing's a really big word, and I always picture, and some other people might picture the same sort of thing, like a very movie style sort of like holding it, like hypnotizing, and you know what I mean? Like, so it was just a consistent message being jammed down your throat without any other messages to add any sort of context or differing opinion.
Yep.
Was there anything else going on, or would you say that was the brunt of it?
The message wasn't just, I mean, I call it brainwashing and I call it indoctrination. And I think it's like the middle of those two things. Because indoctrination is essentially, pushing so many views to somebody over and over again that they start to absorb that as their own. And
I've done it. I've experienced that with like just micro little things. Like I'm far more interested in my health and longevity purely because all day long I just listen to health podcasts now.
Yeah.
And it just like, it comes in.
It is. But and if you can imagine the difference being that is something that you organically feel in yourself is what you want. And so you draw that in for yourself. So you're creating that within yourself. But if somebody has an agenda to do that process with other people for a particular thing, it means that there's force, there's passive aggression, there's like just the dangerous elements of a setup like that. I look back now and my mind is so blown. But especially, the us and them, it was talking about the kind of, they are and we are and those sorts of things. So I think that aspect of it, we're so much better, we know the apocalypse, the combination of the apocalypse, and the heaven-hell scenario, those two things, creates a really potent us and them setup.
For sure. And I suppose that's a really strong fear motivator as well, to get people to really pay attention and make sure that they're walking the correct path.
Yeah.
But
it was a drug rehab.
Yeah, I've seen that program online. I've read through it.
Yeah.
So was that their core thing, was it? That's where they made their money?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, they made their money through... They would go and... they would get donations, hard rubbish collections. They'd fix them up, and then some of the people from the program would go and sell them at markets.
Okay.
Some of the leaders.
And that was the core way they made their money?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now I think they have shops.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
I know.
Good little side hustle idea.
No.
Better than what I saw on TikTok the other day. You can now make money mailing your shit to, like,
I've got stories, don't worry.
Oh my god. Surely not.
No, just a friend of mine was... she has a story about how she would sell her shit for once a week to a dude.
Jeez, how much? What's a bag of crap worth?
$500.
Wow, does he want mine? Look, can use $500. You can buy some better cameras.
We'll get on there. Get your hustle going then.
That's crazy.
So funny.
That's madness.
It's so funny,
What's
I know.
He doing
he was a chef, so I think he had that culinary.
No.
Oh, the world.
That's so interesting.
It's so interesting.
So
yeah.
I've always thought the best way to control someone is by locking up their finances. So what were they doing with your money? You know what I mean? How did you earn money? Could you earn money? You couldn't earn money? What was your money situation like? Or like everyone's money situation?
Just a little bit like socialism.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody... I mean, because your resource is yourself, isn't it?
Yep.
No matter how much cash you have, your resource is yourself. So we were putting everything into the building of this kind of program and regime. And so, I mean, everything went to that. And, gee, I mean, they didn't get my parents' property, but...
Did they give it a crack?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That, it's for the best, and we could set up a thing there, and we could expand.
Wow. Cool.
Imagine.
Absolutely. That's crazy.
Just the audacity.
Absolutely.
Just shameless.
So what if you fell in love?
Well...
Then what?
That was
with someone in the community or out of the community?
What ended up happening with me was that... So I went overseas when I finished school. So I went to Portugal, went to Rima there.
Okay, so you could do like... Is that like a Rumspringa sort of thing where you get to like... You know what I mean when I say that, yeah?
No, I don't.
So Amish people get Rumspringa. So you understand like Amish, the way Amish people live, yeah?
Yeah.
So they get Rumspringa, which is as long as they like, they get to be an Englisher. So they get to be not Amish.
That's crazy.
They can have a phone, they can do cocaine, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
They could literally like do coke off a stripper's back every night for 2 years and then decide that they're back and they get it once. That's it. They get as long as they like once. So if they come back and then leave or found with contraband like a phone or I don't think they're allowed to drink. I don't really know.
Over. I'm sure.
Then they're an Englisher.
I wonder.
And they get shunned.
I wonder what the premise is behind that. Why they decided that that's what they wanted to do.
That's an interesting one.
It is.
And if it's always been a thing, where did Rumspringa come from? The only reason I know this is my mum makes me watch Amish movies.
She's a good woman.
Rumspringa, also spelled like that, is a rite of passage during adolescence, translated from Palatine German. It doesn't jumping or hopping around.
Really
doesn't really tell us.
People ask that one. Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, that one.
No,
just running around.
I'd be curious to find out why it's a good idea. I don't think we're going to find it in a quick Google. So was that trip like Rumspringa, or were you basically... It was an exchange program and you were... it was exactly the same thing in a different context.
In a different context. Yep. And we were connected to the... You know... I mean, I worked 6 days a week and, you know... went to church on the 7th, of course. But... so it wasn't a grand holiday, but at least we were connected to the community and there was some that sort of stuff going on. And then I came back and there was one of the members of the community that I started getting close to, and so they pushed for marriage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they were like, that's a good fit. You should be probably doing a bit of that.
Well, there's definitely like a you can't spend time together alone rule.
Okay.
But in saying that, you know, when I started when I was 14, because that's when I entered in, there was a lot of grooming going on. Like there was at the time older men, 29, 30-year-olds that were trying to chat me up. And
right.
So there was a lot of like yucky stuff going on. It was yuck. I look back now, I'm like, I'm not even sure how bless my parents, you know, bless them. They were trying their hardest, but I don't know how you do it.
Did they know, or did they have blinders on?
My mum, because they have a strong emphasis on female submission, and my mum submitting to my dad, but my dad is this Slovakian man who's probably on the spectrum, you know, he's just emotionally and mentally not there. So he doesn't have the faculty to see what's going on. So my mum would speak up and say, I don't like it that, you know, this person's looking at my daughter, I don't like that this one is doing this. Like she would talk about it and they would tell her to submit to her husband. And so she was slowly just like pushed down. So, you know, that's a strong emphasis, is like female submission, which is insane.
So, how did you go with the Portuguese guy?
No, he wasn't Portuguese. It was when I came back. He was English.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So he was English. Okay.
He was English.
Yeah, right.
And he was an ex-addict from England. So he'd been a heroin addict in England and entered Rima and recovered and then come over to Australia. Yeah. So, I mean, we got along really well, but there was such a push and such a focus for marriage that we said, okay, well, we'll get married. And I see in retrospect that he was part of something bigger that he was trying to get out of himself. And I think he was probably on the run from England as well. So I think him getting a visa through me was probably his, like, main focus.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got married?
Yeah, and I remember on the eve of I was, anxious the whole time. I just didn't want to go to hell. I literally just got married because I didn't want to go to hell.
Fair enough.
If
you're hearing about it twice a day.
Literally.
Yep.
And my mum was really pushy about it. So I remember on the eve of my wedding saying to my mum, I feel really bad about this, Mum. I was 19. I feel really bad about this. I really don't want to do this. And she said, oh, come on, Xanthi. Either do it or don't do it. And I said, oh, okay.
Jeez. Fuck.
It's so wild.
Yeah, right.
So rogue.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy.
And so got married to this 29-year-old man when I was 19. So
29, 19. 10-year age gap.
Of an ex-heroin addict from England.
Yeah. Did you, were there... So I guess, I'm sitting here going, fuck, how do you not work it out?
Well,
and I'm sure you're sitting there now hearing this story going, fuck, how did I not work it out? So I guess, during all this, how did you feel? Obviously, you were anxious before you were married, but, did it feel right? You know what I mean?
But this is where the indoctrination, brainwashing comes in. So if you get a developing mind and a developing spirit and you put it in a container and you force feed it stuff about how it's meant to think and how it's meant to feel, and then you put that person who's been in this artificial environment, if you put them in a situation that we on the outside would go, yeah, well, of course not. But I wasn't that. I was, a shell of a human because I had none of my own properties around me. I had none of my own belief. I had no rational thinking. I didn't have any tools whatsoever to be able to deal with a situation like that. So I look back now and I think, well, of course, you were just trying to do your best.
Mm. Yeah, right. I've got an interesting one for you.
Go.
So, has your experience led you to being more selective and cautious and questioning of life around you now that you're out of Rima? So, I'll give you an example of what I mean. Say, for example, during COVID, there was a lot of wackiness going on. There was a lot of you need to just accept, you need to just do this. Were you hey, this is a cult. This is weird. This is cult-like behaviour. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, since there's obviously, a lot more to the story of what happened afterwards, which I'll continue on to later. But the gift that experience was, there's so much a part of me that believes that my soul chose that path, because the gift of what it gave me in terms of stuff that I can see now, my resilience of understanding stuff, patterns that I can see, behaviour. It was pretty much a boot camp.
Your bullshit meter.
Oh, just don't even come near me with anything, because I'll see it from...
Absolutely.
And once I kind of got a lot of that trauma out, I was able to just use the tools of what I'd learnt, So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good at picking up on cult-like predatory behaviour, for sure.
So I mentioned at the start that I watched my parents go through a cult. So,
yeah, tell me about
so what actually happened was, and I've got the approval to talk about this.
Awesome.
Yeah. My mum's written a book about this whole thing. I've actually got her coming on at the end of November with Dad, and then we're going to sit down and talk about what happened. So I don't want to blow up her spot too much, but I will go over the story and let you know that we're actually going to do a full episode on it a bit later. So my dad grew up... I've always been a church kid sort of thing, and we grew up going to church. And Dad came into league with, I think it was 8 really, really good, wholesome, awesome Christian guys who all were entrepreneurial. Yeah. And so Dad's an accountant. So Dad individually worked with all of them, I believe, and was their accountant. And they all ultimately got together and decided they wanted to do property development together because they had between them a really good skill set, and none of them could have done a development on their own. They all needed to pool their money together to get to the next step. And it was great. It was beautiful. So it's actually the Hidden Harbour Marina in Mount Martha. So they bought the marina. It was so one developer bought it, dug the hole, went broke. Second developer bought it, dug the hole, went broke. They were the third or fourth developer. Yeah. Bought it, finished digging the hole, didn't go broke. And they sold the berths off. I want to say they all put in like collectively like a couple of $100,000 and made millions. Yeah, they did really, really well out of it. And it should have been this beautiful thing. Now, the weakness there was, so they were all Christian and they would commit every decision to prayer and all that sort of stuff. And that was fine for a period until Enter the Prophet. Enter the Prophet. So there was a guy who came in after, I think you're...
Yeah, it's mate.
Yeah, so a prophet came in.
Yeah, wow.
And he started helping them.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? And just like your story, it was slowly bits and pieces here. He'd like turn
it's like
up...
a movie script, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. He'd turn up for one meeting here and there and all that sort of stuff. And then ultimately...
What, he just came out of nowhere?
No, so he was, I think, someone brought him in. Hey, like, I know this guy. I've had a couple of breakfasts with him because church is all about breakfast. They all have breakfasts.
Oh, they love it.
They love a good breakfast. We've had a couple of breakfasts. He's prophesied over me before, and he's the Spirit of God works through him. So he would be a really good person. I feel like God is calling us to have him in league with us. We need to look after this guy who I won't name. We need to look after him. I'll use a pseudonym, Kev. We need to look after Kevin.
Big K.
Yep. Big K. Special K. But basically, it very quickly turned into you need to stop discussing with your wives business dealings because they're not clean, they're not safe. So submission of women. They're not saved.
Fuck you, Big Kev.
No, I know, right? And then that turned into, hey, so guys, this time we're not going to do dividends. You're not actually going to get paid, or you're going to take a significantly smaller dividend because we actually need, God's working through Kevin and he needs a property.
Yikes.
Because we're going to buy a youth camp. So then,
red flags,
and I'll cut the story short, but it turned into a youth camp, and then the daughters were living with him and doing like an apprenticeship or something like that, and it got weird.
Yikes. In what time frame did it get weird?
Really good question. Let me think. I want to say, when did they buy the marina? I reckon it was a 6-year experience. No, less. 3 to 4 years, I reckon, the whole thing. So I reckon the first year or two there was no Kev, and then after that there was Kev, and that's when it started to go downhill. And they do not mission trips. They do retreats, and they'd go away. Yeah. So you got to get away from your wives, just the men.
100%.
And Kevin's gonna pray over you.
And you know, I mean, you understand why the setup of a religion works in that way, that wives need to be submitted.
I can only imagine it's because... No, you tell me. I've got an idea, but you tell me.
Because energetically, spiritually, in all sorts of ways, females have this power about them. As we were talking about, previously, there's no way that you guys could birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. We energetically have such power that if you allow a female into that scenario in her fullness, it's game over.
She'll sniff it out.
It's game over.
My wife famously told me not to put any money in this old truck. So I bought a truck when I was 14, 15, an old Hilux, and I fell in love with it. And then it broke when I was 22 or something. The weekend we got married, it broke or something like that. My Bucks weekend. And I decided I wanted to fix it up. She said, you're not putting any money in that. Anyway,
She's a good woman.
I started putting money into it, and it's, and you know what I mean. And it's like, oh, now it's done, but the alternator went. It's only $300, and then this one is only.
Tell you what, we're connected to higher realms. We know.
Fucking turn around and you spent like $25,000 on this car that's worth $5,000.
We know.
And I should have listened to her, and I did not, because I thought I knew better.
If you think about it in terms of like the womb being a portal from other dimensions, bringing humans in, it means that we're actually connected to the universe and to other dimensions in ways that you guys aren't. So soz, not soz.
That's all right. I don't mind. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. Honestly, I think that's why marriage works so well.
Me too.
That's why I enjoy the union with my wife.
Yeah. I mean, apart from the fact that she's just the best human on earth.
She's pretty cool, and she made us a good tapioca pudding. It's pretty good, isn't it?
It's made with love.
Yeah, absolutely. She's definitely made me a better person and a better... I would say a lot of people who know me know that I was not a very grounded person in my 18, 19, 20. And I was probably a bit of an extremist on some things like work and stuff like that. Like, I'd sacrifice everything for work. And I'd say that she's definitely made me a better person in that regard. She's made me a more whole person. And she has... How do I... She's influenced me to start looking after my health a lot more. Oh, man. I used to be heavy. I'll show you a photo. I used to be heavy.
Big boy.
Huge. As I said earlier, they'd hear me coming. I weighed like 120 kilos.
That's so heavy.
It's fucking massive.
So heavy.
Yeah, huge.
You look... Huge. I'm sorry, no disrespect, but you look like you have a fat suit on.
Absolutely.
It's
terrible, isn't it? Yeah. And there's a little boy in there screaming to get out.
Saying, please, no.
Yeah, literally. Anyway, like... My wife is the only reason I don't look like that today, because I was like...
She has such a grounded, just serene essence to her. She's just an angel, so...
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I would not have prioritised health, exercise, nothing. I don't give a shit about that. You know what I care about? Work. That's what I care about. So, yeah, she's really cool, and I think that's what's special about the union.
Well, you obviously... And you activate so much stuff in her. Like, that's what's beautiful about... partnership, isn't it? And it's just the activating of things for both.
Absolutely. No, so I'm interested in the parallels between cults and what's going on in society now, and the general, the tactics that are used there. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever given this any thought?
I mean, I am a sniffer dog when it comes to manipulation, to altering facts, to people getting their way. So if you just think about it and take away cult, take away all of that.
Yep.
Agenda, and what else? Intention. It just depends how strong somebody's agenda and intention is. And you can feel it. You can feel the push.
Yep.
And then you can feel the resistance, like we've felt.
Yep.
So, what's your view on it?
So I think that a lot of people would say that, oh, no, I'd never get caught up in a cult. No, I'm pretty clever. But I reckon...
They don't know shit.
That's exactly right. He's exactly right. Absolutely.
They don't know shit.
Yeah. I freely admit that you would get me in a cult. 100%. You gotta entice me, and you've gotta get me scared. You gotta systematically... present me with a situation where I have fear, and I need to do this.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I don't want to get all conspiratorial, but I mean, there's a lot of like, are we not in a cult? Like, why do you pay tax? Because you go to prison if you don't pay tax.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Have a think about how everybody is set up to operate, and this is where the new paradigm's coming in. I don't know if you know about new paradigm.
No idea what that is.
Oh, it's Literally. So, you know how everybody's evolving at the moment since 2020. Everybody's been waking up to like, hang on a second, this is a crock of shit.
Yep.
It's more or less the human race waking up to the understanding that what we're doing at the moment isn't working and isn't right, and we're moving into a completely new era of operating, which doesn't mean answering to the man, but is actually individual focused. And I believe that the society is just going to change in so many different ways, and there's no stopping it. You know, because once you start waking people's spirits up, they start coming alive and they start operating and not wanting to be shackled to a system.
I have so many conversations with people now who I had conversations with 4 years ago, and the conversation's completely different.
So different.
It'll be, I'm trying to think of a really good example. I know some older people who historically have been very pro-government. The government will look after you, and now it's like, I don't know, like,
how can at this point, if you think that you got rocks in your head? Cause how can you watch what has happened and go, yeah, they've got our best interest in mind.
Yeah. I always like to say to people, has your government ever lied to you? Yeah. Well, where does it stop then?
Where does it stop?
Yeah. If your husband lies to you about little stuff, like, he has the capacity to lie.
You know full well that behind closed doors, if he has a white lie here, there is an iceberg behind
For sure. Absolutely.
You know, and you can sense it. You can look in their faces and just... Like, I haven't watched media or anything like that for a long time. And when I accidentally have a little clip of it, it's so... Isn't it? It just stands out so much where you're just like, oh, man, I can see it in your eyes. Just stop your lying.
Absolutely.
So... I think the working from home thing is, like, people are, now that they can see that they don't have to be technically, you know, strapped to a organisation, building, all of that sort of stuff.
I know so many people who worked from home and now have to go in, and they're like, why? Why am I going in?
Why am I doing this?
What's going on here? What inherent benefit is there in me going in? Why do I have to go in?
Because the organisation, the company that you're working for is sucking your soul dry. Absolutely. And they need your energy. So that's why.
Absolutely.
So everyone just shut up and wake up.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. I've always found it really, really hard. Like, so I've had jobs. Like, I've had a job in the past, and I always felt like I was screaming. Like, I cannot... Like, I've worked for myself now for the last 4 years. I ran a real estate agency, and now I run a gardening business. Yeah. Because it's the only way I can function. Because I cannot... Like, I can't have my financial destiny being led by some fucktard that I know I'm smarter than.
How? How? And if you wake up in the morning and you feel like shit and you have to drag yourself out of bed and go, oh, I've got to go, you're not getting that time back.
No.
You're not. And why? What would the purpose be behind it?
Yeah.
You know?
I always found weird shit at places I worked as well. Like, you'd have to do stuff. You'd have to... So one of the ones is... There was always this Monday morning meeting in the city. So I would sit out in a display. Luckily enough, it was 11 till 5. It was a sweet gig. I was 18. I was earning 60 grand a year. And 11 till 5. I was like... I was a king. And then it turned into 12 till 5. But every morning, Monday morning meeting. And we'd have to get there at 8:30 in the city. So I'd have to drive from Mornington to the city and then out to Pakenham. I was like, that's a huge waste of time. Like, we're talking 2 hours in travel.
So inefficient.
Yeah, for sure. And then we go in and there was no value exchange. It was high-lows.
Yeah.
And then they'd get a speaker in to tell you. And I'd always go, like, what are we doing here? And there was always weird little stupid things like that I always didn't really understand, like, how they were helping me push my life forward. And I ended up just feeling like it was all about making the organisation feel like they had something. You know what I mean? Like, they had a culture and they were doing something, and you were a part of our team and our thing, and you're in the office and it's great and we're connecting. But ultimately, There are better ways of achieving that, I think.
The efficiency that needs to come into place with a lot of these organisations, and just how we operate in general, is just so different.
Yeah.
But continuing on from, and actually that's a very good segue, because what ended up happening from the cult life, I worked in hospitality, I was married.
What were you doing?
I was a wedding planner. So we
Within
left.
Remar?
No, so we left.
Oh, so you left Remar, but you were still married?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the guy that I married, now I look back and I see he had, his agenda of what he was doing. So he...
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And so he left. He was streetwise. Like, people from the street are just... They'll run rings around you, especially England. Fuck.
For sure. That's a tough
here
old place, eh?
It was from Nottingham, so Nottingham's like...
Yep.
Gun capital.
I know all about England. I have watched every episode of Top Gear like 5 or 6 times.
Oh,
I know everything about England. I know everything about England.
Well, he talked us into leaving. I was like, I don't know, and he said, no, it's, we'll do it. And so we were excommunicated. We were...
Yeah, right.
Don't even look our way ever again.
Were you allowed to see your mum? Or it was like, that was it?
So she left around the same time my dad stayed in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was a gambling addict?
I think he might have found ways to like sneak out and stuff and do it still, but the ponies.
The old ponies. A couple of horses. A couple of cheeky horses.
Old TAV. So... Yeah, we left, and so we lived like a relatively... No, it was shit. It was crap.
Yeah.
It was fucking crap.
How long did that last?
4 years.
Yeah,
and I
right.
was stuck in this vortex of I have to serve my husband for 4 years.
Serve as in, like, literally you were, like, cooking, cleaning, doing everything, keeping the house together and working?
I was working. I was paying all of the bills. He was keeping the money, and... Like, it was a perfect setup for him, because he had this Play-Doh, this woman who had a Play-Doh mind, because she'd been bloody, manipulated her whole life. And so with this indoctrinated spirit of I have to submit, and I am a hard worker, just by nature I'm a hard worker. So I worked in hospitality, and we lived an isolated life, and he slowly started getting on. I didn't know what drugs were. I didn't understand what anything was.
Really? Okay.
Because I'd lived out of society for...
I see.
And
they didn't educate you in Remar?
No, they didn't educate... I mean, there was ex-drug addicts that were coming in, but they didn't talk about what drugs were or...
Right, okay.
No.
Yep.
And so he would, like, slowly... And I didn't know what a heroin addict was, technically, He would slowly come home... Like, little by little, just little things like he would started drinking more, and then he'd start drinking a lot, and then he'd come home and he'd be kind of out of it, but I wasn't sure what was happening. And then he started getting violent, and then it was like 4 years of hell. It was 4 years of hell.
Fuck. Yeah, right.
And I didn't understand what that was and
I see.
how to get out of it and what the go was.
You were fucked up at the end of all that. You literally went through 2 cults.
I went through 2 cults.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you do at the end of that? Did you just go to the pub for just like, hey, fuck, I just can't.
I was doing...
You need a Stein at that point.
Literally. I was sleeping in my car, so I would drive when it got too dangerous at home. I'd drive my car and sleep, like, at work.
Fuck.
There was a cemetery up the road that had, like, a little shed. I'd go and sleep in the cemetery shed.
While married to old mate.
Yeah, because he was off.
Was he violent?
Tap. Yeah, he was violent,
okay.
and he'd come home off his choppers and...
Yeah. Was he physically or verbally?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it got to... I don't know, it got to like... how old was I? 24.
You're young.
When I...
You're young. Like, 24 is young.
When I left. I'm 32 now.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying, like, but at 24, you're a baby.
You're a baby.
Yeah. I'm 26 now.
Are you?
Yeah.
You're how old did you soul.
think? How old did you think I was?
I thought you were 30.
Yeah. No, I'm 26 now, and I honestly...
You hold yourself well.
We'll have to come back to old souls. I honestly felt myself change when I was 25.
Yeah.
24, I was a fucking alcoholic at 24.
Yeah,
because why? Because there's nothing else to do. I'm just going to drink. I'm going to eat McDonald's. You fat boy here. That photo.
The
dude,
fat suit boy.
I used to just put McDonald's away. I'd starve myself all day and then eat 2 McDonald's meals and 24 nuggets at 9.
2 McDonald's meals?
Yeah, I've talked about it on the podcast before, I think.
Did you get your cholesterol checked and all that? Oh, yeah.
I have done. Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay.
But I live such an awesome life now. I'm a gardener. So, so much vitamin D. I'm in the soil. People talk to me about grounding and I'm like, yeah, I literally am in the dirt.
You literally
for 7 hours a day
detoxed
minimum.
that entire time.
Correct.
Now. Oh, yeah. You're very clever.
Yeah. But oh my goodness, I am. A lot of people think like grounding and all that sort of stuff's real frou-frou, and I'll be honest with you, there was a period there where I was like, you guys are fucking wacko. But
those people are idiots.
I think there is definitely something to be said. I don't know what it is, but when I spend time in the soil, fuck, I feel better. We went on a tangent. What were we just talking about though?
We were
talking about your abusive husband. Yeah.
And we got to...
I don't know how we got there, but
it was a fun adventure.
Yeah. We were talking about you leaving and sleeping.
Yes, yeah. So, no, my point was, okay, when I decided enough's enough, my brain developed enough that I was like, I need to finish this up.
Yep.
And so I chucked all my stuff in a car. He came home. I tried moving us to another house. I was like, if we move further out of the city, maybe you won't have access to stuff. And
addicts always find a way.
Always. You know?
I've had it where I've had no money left in my bank account. Somehow find $50 for a slab of beer. Absolutely, not a problem at all.
Yeah.
Not so much now.
Yeah. She would kill
Fat boy Slim. Fat boy Slim. This is pre-marriage. When you're like 20 and living alone.
Yeah.
You have no money and you'll find $50.
No,
you'll find something.
That's the hustle, you know?
For sure.
It's the hustle.
For sure. Anyway.
Through my stuff, it was so... I look back now, it's literally like movie worthy. The scene of...
Write it down.
Oh, I'm gonna. The scene of saying to myself, no, this is the most wild thing. I started having premonitions about stripping. Okay? So I didn't even know what stripping was. This is why I think that your future self sends back messages to you.
Okay.
I had no idea what stripping was. I didn't even know if it was just something I'd seen on the movies and it wasn't a thing anymore, if it was just from like the 80s. I had no sense of what that was, but I started getting this thought in my mind about stripping. And so that actually was like the catalyst for me.
While you were married to this guy?
While I was married to this guy. Where the fuck did that come from? I don't I thought to myself, I'm gonna strip and I'm gonna study. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm going to emancipate myself from this situation. And it took me a year of building myself up until I built up the courage. One day he came home and I had literally just like a bag of shit in my car. And I said, I'm going.
Yeah, right.
And so he was on his knees crawling, saying, please no, please no.
Why did he need you? He had his visa. I'm not saying that you're not a lovely person, but he clearly wasn't trying to hold it together very well. What was it? Did he just want companionship?
We'd been through a lot together.
Oh, okay.
We'd been through 5 years of... He was fucked up, but...
So you had a genuine companionship there?
Right on a really deep level, there was a form of connection. No matter how toxic, no matter how fucked up it was, humans connect with other humans, you know?
So now I see the whole picture. Like that's the piece that made it all so hard to... That's why you stayed for 4 years, and that's why... So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you play on your mind of like... It's like when you keep spending money on a Hilux, you know what I mean? It's like, should I just stop now? No, I should keep going. This thing's going to work. This thing's going to work.
It'll come through. It'll come good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got yourself out. And he was crawling. Yeah.
Drove to my sister's house. Knocked on the door. Hadn't talked to her for 5 years.
Was she ever in the cult?
No, but she visited once and she was like, what the F is going on?
Well, she was a frog in a hot pot of water. Not a frog in a cold pot of water being turned up. She was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Plus, she's a Scorpio, so she's like, doesn't take people's shit. She was like, what is this? And why are these people, my sister's here. What's going on? And that was kind of pushed and shushed and stuff. So she just, after the wedding, me getting married, she was like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, okay.
So I rocked up on her door. She took me in. Stayed with her for a little bit while I got myself together. But those first, I look back now like, it's rough stuff.
Yeah, right.
It's rough. It's very rough.
Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah.
Like, what's rough mean?
Is it rough? The light and shade of life, Sometimes when I look in somebody's eyes and you can tell that they've been like through the valley of the shadow of darkness, it means that your inner world, your inner self, like when you're in that state, and a lot of people have been through it, when you're in that state where you're just like, I can't see how it can get worse than this. It'll get you.
I feel like everyone can relate to that. And what I mean is the worst thing that you've ever experienced is the worst thing that you've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there are people that have significantly less treacherous stories than what you're describing, but we can all imagine the worst thing we've...
100%.
Even just financially. When you look at it and you're like, hey,
100%.
I'm fucked. There's zero here, and I got a $5,000 bill for whatever.
Literally.
Or $5,000 bill. Like,
or people
now
that
what?
People that have, put years into a company and then they get laid off. Or any given human experience, But it has the same feeling about it, which is just like, this is just shit.
So you got to that point.
But the fantastic bit about that point is I just had this light that was like underneath there somewhere. There was something under there, and I know what it is now, but there was something leading me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's also something to be said for your hardworking nature as well. So I think there are two people in this world, those who roll over and play the victim, and those who go, hey, guess what? I've been dealt a really, really rough hand here. And now is the time for me to pick up my skirt and fucking run. Yeah. And so what I'm getting from your story is you got to that point, you got to the end, and rather than going, fuck this, I am going to go to the pub, I'm going to pick up my skirt and run.
Yeah.
And I think that's so interesting. And one of my favourite things to do is hear stories like that. Yeah. I love all those stupid movies on the internet, on businesses as well.
Yeah.
About people who start businesses. You know that Macca's movie, The Founder, and The Social Network, and the Jobs movie. And there's now a BlackBerry movie coming out as well.
Is there?
I just saw it advertised. I love stuff like that because I love the story of when people, like, in The Founder, that milkshake salesman who's like, he just keeps fucking selling milkshakes. And he's Ray Kroc, who is the founder of McDonald's. There is a bit more to that story. He kind of stole it, but also kind of didn't steal it. Yeah.
Just the concept of the resilience,
Absolutely.
Like, I motivate myself. Like, I look back at how I was back then and I'm like, fuck, that's some good shit.
That's cool. I really like that attitude.
Yeah.
That's a really, really cool attitude.
Yeah. I think, and this is kind of my whole concept of like speaking to people about this sort of shit is that you will get back what you put in. Like if you give 100%, it may not turn up squeaky right then and there, but it gets put in the karma machine and then it spits it out. It might not be then, but it'll be later.
Yep.
And since I got to that low point, it gives me goosebumps even just talking about it. Since I put in at that point, I got to that low point and I said, I'm going to go all in. I don't know what all in even looks like, but I'm just going to do it. Like, fuck.
Dude, you're giving me goosebumps thinking about this. It's so good. I love it so much. And isn't it? Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it pays in dividends.
Absolutely.
Like, you get interest on top because the universe is like, good.
Yeah.
Very good work.
Yeah.
Like.
The hard one is when you rally and it doesn't work out and then you rally again. And it's like putting bricks in your backpack.
Literally.
And that backpack keeps getting heavier. And you're like, I'm just going to keep fucking pulling this backpack up this hill.
I'm just going to
I'm going to take 1 minute. I'm going to have a breath.
Yeah.
And we're going to fucking go.
And we're going to go again.
That. I love that spirit. And I think there's only, I'm going to choose a random number, 30, not even 10% of people out there that have that real spirit to a level that they can do that 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
And when I meet someone who can do it 6 or 7 times, you fuck me dead. I love it. It's just so good. And these are the people I want to surround myself with.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And that, to me, it lights me up. And not just the fact that, you know, that's my story and that's what I did, but I can look in somebody's eyes or I can hear somebody talk or whatever it is, and I know that they know exactly what I'm talking about, you know, and we do rally around each other. We do. Absolutely. Because it's a shared thing that we experience, you know, and it's really...
My grandmother has a saying, and this is the first Dutch thing that's been on this podcast. It's called The Audacious Dutchman. Nothing. I've got
very good
an
marketing.
Aussie accent. Like, fucking, there's nothing Dutch about this. So this is my grandmother, my Oma, has a saying, and it is, de broede mente heb half de veld, which means, de broede mente, the bald men, heb half de veld, have half the world. The bald men have half the world.
Oh, that's some good shit.
It's really good, isn't it? And that's how I've lived my life.
But do you know what? I think everybody gets given that opportunity. It's like everybody gets the thing put in front of them, and the universe saying to them, "What say you?" And but people don't step up, and everybody's step up looks different. You know, everybody's like fork in the road looks completely different, and you can't. You know, nobody can tell you what yours is.
No.
Yeah.
So interesting, isn't it?
It's great. So, I stayed with my sister for a bit. Kind of got myself together a little bit. And then I went to Melbourne, started looking at strip clubs. I was like, I'm going to follow this. This is.
So was that your way out? That's what you did?
That was my way out because I followed my heart. I followed what was the coming forth for me, you know? Started looking at strip clubs, looked at Monash. I had this premonition. I was on a...
Do they have a strip club?
The Monash strip club. PhD in shaking booty. I was on a tram on the way into the city one day and went on that past Caulfield, and there's a Monash insignia that's up on the building. And I remember looking up at it and going, I'm going to go there one day. And at that point, I had nothing. I didn't even have an enter score. I had nothing. But I did that diploma. I did a year-long diploma. Did I do an advanced diploma? Yeah, I did 2 years. I did an advanced diploma of business.
What did they teach you there? Did they teach you how to sell anything at any point in an advanced diploma of business?
They tell you they've got some marketing.
Is it basic accounting and marketing? Is it?
Yeah, and business plans and stuff.
Okay,
it's not too bad.
Was it useful?
I don't know. It was so long ago.
Could you have found it through just podcasts? Would you recommend? So if I said to you, "Hey Xanthia, I really want to start a business," would you be like, "Hey, for 2 years"?
The way that trauma works is that it makes things real cloudy. So my memory of stuff is not like a normal memory. It's dot points up until maybe COVID.
Okay.
Real flash in the pan type stuff. So I couldn't tell you about the business stuff. But got me the enter school.
That's all right. I went to university for 6 months. A year, actually. I can't remember one fucking thing. I vaguely remember what I studied.
Good. That's a good start.
No. The name of the degree is what I basically vaguely remember, but I couldn't tell you anything.
That's so funny.
I couldn't tell you
the
anything.
name of the degree.
Yeah. It was a Bachelor of Design, majoring in... It was a double degree, majoring in interior architecture, and... It was marketing, but they called it something. Communication design. Yeah. I tell you what. So I did that for 6 months, and then I only did that because I fucked around in school because I had ADHD.
Which that we've only found out today, apparently.
6 months ago.
6 months
Six
ago.
months ago. But I fucked around in school and didn't get the ATAR I needed. I needed an 80 ATAR, I got like a fucking 55 ATAR.
Yeah,
because I was fucking around.
Because the system wasn't set up for you.
But I got a 35 study score in English. I got higher than... I think I got higher than the ducks at the school in English because I love writing. And I love talking, and I love to communicate.
See?
Yeah, but I fucked up everything else.
Oh.
It's alright though. Doesn't matter. Here now.
I hate that.
Oh, it worked out well. So I got into that degree, and I used it to get into architecture at Monash. I just used it to get in. And I really hustled in that degree, and I did it with a high distinction.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Good on you.
Because I was like, I'm going to make this work.
Yeah. Yeah, once you get that thing, like, locked into your heart,
Man, I was so green. Something... Oh, I remember... Do you ever remember weird things that happen in your life?
Every day.
So I was a really timid little boy when I was 18. I was so green. And I had grown up in such a deeply Christian home. And I remember one of the big contentious things, and I was like terrified and felt guilty while I was doing it, is one day we had to do nude drawing. And they brought in a nude model.
Right? Fucks with you,
and
with your centre of gravity. You're like, what's...
There was 3 weeks lead up where I was literally like, do I talk to the lecturer? Do I call in sick? What do I do?
See, that's some Christian shit right there.
It's true. Because I'd never even been in the room with a naked woman before.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And then while I was there, I was like, oh, it's actually not that scary. Like, it's probably scarier for her. I'm like, I don't know why I thought I had to do something. I just shut up and draw.
But you had to get involved somehow.
I don't know why. I thought I'd have to do some level of speech or something. But yeah, no, isn't it funny how you just remember stuff like that? But yeah, it was a good degree, and I learned Photoshop and Premiere Pro and all that sort of stuff, which is, to be honest with you, things that have carried me through. So every business I do, when you start a business, you have fuck all money. So you can't afford to pay someone to do the marketing for you.
You need skill sets to start a business.
Correct.
Until you can pay someone.
Absolutely. So I'm fortunate enough that I have a dad who's an accountant. And so I can have access to all the admin-based business side of things. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm a good salesperson. I'm a salesman. That's my thing.
You're a people's person.
Yeah. So I can do that piece on my own. And that degree gave me the ability to do the art.
Yeah.
And it showed me what art is.
Yeah.
And it showed me that art is about intent and it's about thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
So I happen to have the 3 things that you are required. The only thing I can't do, I don't have any skills other than that. Meaning I can run a business, but I don't know how to do anything. Which is why I'm a gardener.
You're like, I've got the container ready.
Exactly. Correct.
Nah, you are the business.
Correct. Absolutely. What I've found is everything I do is the distillation of my mind.
Yeah.
Podcast, business, marriage, everything like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You run your own business, so you do psychology, yeah?
So I went on to Monash. I did 4 years at Monash with an advanced major.
Yep.
I then decided that clinical psych wasn't for me because I don't agree with the diagnosis model.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really hitting the spot, eh?
Okay.
Like, you know.
So you focus more on kinesiology now?
Yeah,
just like Sean, who came in a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, I loved that. I loved that interview. My whole drive for all of it was, I had a moment when I was like, I remember I'd been like, my husband had, I don't know, pushed me over or done something to me, and I remember lying on the ground thinking to myself, when I get out of this, I'm going to make sure that I have the tools to give to other people so that they don't have to go through this same shit. And that was my motivating factor. So when I started the psychology was actually my biggest rehabilitation, was the psychology degree, because it helped bring science, fact, just like cold hard facts into plain view to help me get out of this like God loop that I was in, that I was gonna go to hell, and that God was this thing that they'd made up. So the psychology degree, and then I got to the end of it, and I was like, I don't want to be a clinical psych because you guys suck.
Yeah.
And the APA's a fucking fraud.
What's the APA?
The American Psychological Association.
Okay.
So it's run by very rich, very white men.
Fuck white men.
Oh,
Fuck rich white men.
hate them.
Yeah. Do you like how I slotted in that I'm rich?
Did it feel good? Did you like it?
I felt like I was lying.
The future you is rich. Don't worry.
I've got a big heart.
Got lots of qualities. No, but like it's the whole thing that we know. And the last DSM-5, which is the manual of statistical manual that says all of the disorders, which are not disorders, but oh my god, don't even start. So the last one was rushed out because the APA was going broke and they needed to make money. Cool. And so they created a new DSM-5 to make, to be able to boost their sales or whatever. So the entire system and the setup of diagnosis is wrought with just... what can you say?
Oh, it's money. Have you watched this?
There's a caveat here. Bless all psychologists. I know that you put in lots and lots of hard work. Also, there does need to be diagnosis, obviously, and there does need to be medication at times. That to one side. Continue.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say, have you seen this new Netflix series, Painkiller?
I saw it sitting there.
Okay. It's hard to watch.
Is it?
It's really hard to watch. So it's about Purdue Pharma and oxycodone.
Don't even.
Yeah.
I'll die watching it.
Yeah. So I don't know anyone who was addicted to oxys. I don't know.
It's an American thing.
Yeah. But like, I don't even know anyone who's addicted to heroin. Like, I've lived a particularly sheltered life. I've got one friend that smokes pot, and that's about it. Like, literally. Like,
who has a cigarette every now and then.
Yeah. No, he smokes a lot. But I found it hard to watch. The opening scene is basically a guy owns a mechanic shop. One of his staff members is fucking around on the excavator, fucking around picking up engines and stuff like that, and he's making the machine be a dinosaur. And the boss is like, hey, stop fucking around, and he reaches in the cab to grab the keys, and he falls back and breaks his back. And then it's just the story, and he's got a young kid, and he's got a wife. And that was actually really interesting, because this is the first time, I reckon I wouldn't have given a shit, to be honest with you, 2 years ago. But now that I'm a dad and a husband,
it changes.
I'm like,
your
holy
whole
shit,
life.
that terrifies me. And it's put me on eggshells with my business. Because I'm like,
100%.
hey, so what happens if I cut my foot off with the lawnmower?
Yeah.
That's it. We're fucked.
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah.
I'm self-employed. I don't have any workers' comp. I've now set up a company and put myself on wages so that I can put myself on workers' comp. So if I cut my foot off, I'm fine.
You got to have income insurance.
Because of that show.
Yeah.
Like, literally all these things.
But
I'm
that's
like,
like
holy shit.
my mum was a horse rider. She was a horsewoman, and then she stopped because she had kids. Because she's like, one fall and I'm kaput.
It's scary. Look, I don't think you can actually live your life like that, because, I mean, you go to the shops and you get hit by a bus. But I think there's also something to be said for level of risk.
Yeah, level of risk, risk assessment. And also what I've noticed as I've gotten older and my nervous system has calmed down is making decisions that support you, so that the infrastructure and the scaffolding around your life supports you, not for if something bad happens, but just to make you a more calm, more whole human being, I think that's adult living. I don't know. I'm still testing it out.
You get there one day.
Yeah.
Me too. Now, you actually have to head off. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play you out. And I want to know, is there anything that you're doing at the moment that you might like to plug?
Yes, I would love to. So I'm starting an energy clearing business. I've been working up to this for a long, long time. It's the combination of my entire essence of what I've learned, everything that I'm doing. So my Instagram handle is Xanthia1111, of course. And yeah, just follow my journey with just like energy work, trauma release, like the sorting out of like all of our internal systems, using kinesiology, using energy work, using psychotherapy. And yeah, just enjoy what I put out there. So
yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, if you've liked this episode, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions for Xanthia as well, or me, put them down below and we will get back to you. Please check out Xanthia's Instagram, follow her. I've actually been watching your stories and getting all these little like great bits of advice and stuff like that. You had a really good one the other day about feeling the pain from Palestine.
Oh, the collective grief.
Yeah. That was interesting.
It's a thing.
Because I was like, oh, yeah, I have actually felt like a little bit more somber over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, there's like grief coming forward for all of us, you know, and looking at things in terms of the collective rather than just individual beings. But
correct.
Yeah, there's endless information that I'm pumping out. So
yeah, cool.
Enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe because this is the #1 podcast in Frankston. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Peace.